Okay, now on to example 4. Okay, here we step it up a notch, get into a slightly more complicated problem, because this guy has 2 different square roots. It has here the square root of x plus 2. Here it has the square root of 3 minus x. So when it comes to isolating the radical, we're like, well, which one? Okay, doesn't matter, isolate one of them. So if you notice, this one over here is already over here by itself. So it's already isolated, so that's where we'll start, excuse me. So I need to take both sides and square it, both entire sides, and square it. Okay. Well, this side's nice. If I take the square root of 3 minus x and square it, I just end up with 3 minus x. This one, not so much. I need to take this thing times itself. So I need to take, and I'm going to start way over here so I have tons of room, the square root of x plus 2 plus 1 times the square root of x plus 2 plus 1. So let's think of it as 2 things. I've got this guy, the first term, and then we've got our plus 1s, our second term. So I'm going to start by taking the square root of x plus 2 times both things in here. Okay, I'm going to color code to help us keep things straight. So I have the square root of x plus 2 times the square root of x plus 2. Well, they're the same thing, so I would have the square root of x plus 2 squared. Now I need to take the square root of x plus 2 times 1, which is the square root of x plus 2. Okay. Now I need to multiply by the 1. So take 1 times here, 1 times there. 1 times the square root of x plus 2 gives me the square root of x plus 2. 1 times 1 is 1. Okay. All right, and it still equals that 3 minus x. Now, when I take the square root of x plus 2 and square it, those undo each other, so I'm just left with x plus 2. If you know, now these two, not if you notice, these two next terms are the same thing. I've got a square root of x plus 2 plus the square root of x plus 2, so I have 2 of them. So I'm going to write that as 2, the square root of x plus 2's, and then I have this plus 1 still out here on the end. So now I can put together like terms. I can put together this x plus 2 and the plus 1, so that gives me x plus 3 plus 2, the square root of x plus 2 equals 3 minus x. Okay. Okay, so what I ended up doing is I took an equation with 2 radicals, got rid of one of the radicals, and now I'm still left with this 1. So I still need to isolate the radical. I'm still at step 1. Okay, we eliminated the one radical, but now I need to isolate the other. So I need to isolate this guy right here. So that's a time. So to do that, I need to subtract the x, subtract the 3. Let's subtract the x and subtract the 3 from both sides. So I have 2 times the square root of x plus 2 equals, now over here I would have, let's see, negative x minus x is negative 2x. 3 minus 3 is 0. Okay, this point here, so now I need to, this is 2 times again, we're still isolating this guy right here. So I would need to divide both sides. This is 2 times, so let's divide both sides by the 2. So then let's bring it up and over. I have the square root of x plus 2. Now that's going to equal negative x. Simplify that. 2 divided by 2. All right, so then now I've isolated the radical again, so now we can square both sides. The square root of x plus 2 squared is x plus 2. The square root of x squared is, sorry, not the square root, negative x squared. That's negative x times negative x. Gives me positive x squared. Let's make room, that's negative x. Positive x squared. So I have an x squared, an x and a 2. So I need to get it in standard form. I'm going to subtract the x, subtract the 2. So I have x squared minus x minus 2 equals 0. Now let's see, does this factor? What multiplies give me negative 2, 2 and 1, negative 2 plus 1 I think will work. X squared plus x minus 2x minus 2. Yep. So x minus 2 equals 0, or x plus 1 equals 0. X equals 2, or x equals negative 1. All right, so now we got to our two solutions. Now we need to check them. Okay, so let's check the 2 first. So I need to go back to the original equation, replace all my x's with 2. So I'd have the square root of 2 plus 2 plus 1. Does that equal the square root of 3 minus 2? Okay, so the square root of 2 plus 2 is 2 plus 2 is 4. Again, we can always put it in our calculator if you want to not have to think at all. Okay, this side is 3. The square root of 3 minus 2, this side is 1. Nope, don't equal. 2 does not work. Okay. All right, now what about negative 1? Okay, the square root of negative 1 plus 2 plus 1, does that equal the square root? Does that equal the square root of 3 minus a negative 1? The square root of negative 1 plus 2, arrow out, plus 1. I get a 2 on this side. The square root of 3 minus a negative 1, I get a 2 on this side. That did in fact work. So x equals negative 1. The 2 was an extraneous solution. Okay. All right, now how to deal with radicals that don't look like radicals. Okay, our fractional exponents. So here this side is to the 3/4. This is actually our radical right here, because that 3/4 there tells me it's the 4th root, because this is the same as writing the 4th root of 2x to the 3rd. Okay, so there's our radical. So we need to isolate, get rid of that guy. So I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. So I'd have 2x to the 3/4 equals 8. So now it's this whole side, 2x to the 3/4. So to undo to the 3/4 power, what we're going to do here is we're going to multiply, not multiply, take each side to the reciprocal. Take each side to the reciprocal. Okay, so the reciprocal of 3/4 is 4/3. So I'm going to take this side to the 4/3 power and this side to the 4/3 power. We're raising both sides to the 4/3. Because what happens here is I get 3/4 to the 4/3. We multiply those exponents. 3/4 times 4/3 is 1, so I just get 2x to the 1 power. Now 8 to the 4/3, if we're lucky, it's a nice number, ooh, which it is. It's 16. Now we divide both sides by 2, x equals 8. Now we check it, make sure it works. Parenthesis 2 times 8 to the 3/4 plus 2 equals 10. So it worked. X equals 8. Okay. All right, last one example. Before we get into one more example of inequalities. Okay, so here we have x plus 30 to the 1/3. So that means I need to take both to the 2/1 power. Sorry, 2/1. Take both sides to the 2nd power. So x plus 30 to the 1/2 to the 2/2. Those undo each other. I'm left with x plus 30 equals x squared. I'm going to subtract the x, subtract the 30. X squared minus x minus 30 equals 0. Factor. I'm thinking negative 6 plus 5. So x equals 6 or x equals negative 5. Now we need to check both of these. Okay, let's check the 6. So I need to take 6 plus 30 to the 1/2 and see, does that equal 6? 6 plus 30 to the 1/2, does that equal 6? Well, let's see. Parentheses, 6 plus 30 to the 1/2 equals 6. Yep, so that one worked. Oops, sorry for bumping. Now, negative 5. Negative 5 plus 30 to the 1/2, does that equal -5? Well, parenthesis, -5 plus 30 to the 1/2 equals +5, not -5. Those are not equal, so -5 does not work.